The stakes do not get higher than this. He's debating multiple professors and lawyers at the same time. You've got the dean, you've got the provost.
Thank you, Professor Moran. Provost Moran.
Yesterday, Bill C-16 passed third reading in the House of Commons.
The following day, we had this debate with Jordan Peterson at the University of Toronto.
We need to identify and address the claims made in the recent public works of Jordan Peterson.
Knowing that your job is on the line while the most powerful people at the college sit there watching.
Let me begin by saying that we acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat.
Thank you very much, Dean Cameron.
The moderator of this debate is actually the provost of the university.
We have arranged for support for anyone who would like it just outside the room.
This is one of the most powerful and important debates that Jordan Peterson ever participated in.
It instantiates social constructionism into our legal system.
The law has been regulating social constructionism and social constructs since there was law. Language, nationality, religion, citizenship, family, marriage. There's no there. They're social constructs.
When I'm looking at this, I do see reflections of Marxism and postmodernism.
Okay, sure, property exists. It's there, right? But the idea that we own it, the idea that we own property is entirely socially constructed.
I can show that I own property. I can't just feel like I own the property and now it's reflected in law.
So what happens if a person refuses to pay the fine? The mechanisms of civil enforcement come into effect. So yes, it's true, your assets might be seized, your income might be garnished, but you don't get to go to jail.
She just so casually throws this out there, it's remarkable. No, you won't go to jail, we're just gonna be able to seize all of your property.
And if your assets do not sufficiently cover the fine, then your wages will be garnished. It's about money.
Yeah, you might lose your house, lose all your assets, go bankrupt, but what are you complaining about?
And it disturbs me profoundly that Professor Peterson, without arguments or support, has done effectively a post-truth claim on me. He has basically said, you're wrong. There's no arguments, there's no evidence, there's no support.
She's playing the very game she's accusing him of playing with these, well, he claims that I'm just simply wrong.
I would welcome a discussion on the role of hate speech provisions, but I would like to have that debate with someone who is knowledgeable about the law.
She does not explain how Jordan Peterson is wrong about the law. She just claims that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Then Jordan Peterson responds and articulates where he does think she's wrong.
I didn't say that the law shouldn't regulate social constructions. I said that the law now builds in a social constructionist doctrine into the fabric of the law. That's not the same thing. Obviously, the law regulates property rights and all of that, and to some degree those are social constructions, although not to the degree that she claims. But this is a whole different thing. This builds in a philosophy of identity, and one of the things it builds in, for example, is the claim that identity is only subjectively defined, and that's built right in. It says that your identity is whatever you think it is. Well, let me tell you, as a practicing psychologist, that's absolute rubbish.
Jordan Peterson sees a problem when people can project their subjective view on the world and claim by law you are required to play the same game.
It's about whether the subjective or the objective is going to take precedence, because implicit in Bill C-16, and I'm telling you, there's an assault on the idea of objectivity itself, an assault on the idea of biology itself.
And the response here is truly remarkable.
To make sense of what it means to be here today, I've found myself going back frequently to the 1989 debate at Western on the subject of race and IQ.
First thing this individual does is draw a false parallel between concerns around compelled speech, comparing that to the debate around race and inherent IQ.
The stakes then and now are very familiar.
Step one, raise the stakes. We see this often.
I do not want to be here. I do not want to dignify this man and his ideas in public debate.
Therefore, the debate should not even be happening.
The fundamental rights to safety and the humanity of trans and non-binary people are not up for debate.
As though it's around the safety of trans people rather than compelled speech.
This is not about the law.
Well, that's going to make the entire debate very difficult because Jordan Peterson's concerns are around the legal implications.
I want to focus instead on the ethical significance that academic freedom is not an absolute guarantee. Academics are never free to distribute totally bogus claims. What kind of claims can you have in amateurish videos?
Rather than contending with the logic, this person is trying to contend with the person, which is a mistake.
The first thing I would like to say to Mary Bryson is that this is an invitation if she would like to debate the relationship between biology and gender identity. I'm extending her an invitation to do so, and I'll put my knowledge of the peer-reviewed literature against her knowledge of the peer-reviewed literature.
Let's go to the question, though.
Where am I wrong? I have made specific points about logical contradictions, flaws, where this can lead to.
I think they'll probably come after my clinical license. So that'd be my guess. So
I think we might be straying a little away from
Yeah.
the question now. So thank you.
And this professor of law claims that she is not in favor of shutting down open conversations.
I've spent a career being concerned about the way in which thoughtful discussion is often shut down. And I've been concerned about it on the right, I've been concerned about it on the left.
But then when she stands at the microphone, she applauds the students for trying to shut down the conversation.
I'd like to start by saying how much I support and respect all those faculty, staff, and students who are boycotting today's event. The Oxford English Dictionary announced the word of the year, and it's post-truth. It's relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective facts are less influential in shaping public opinion than appeals to emotion and personal belief.
There's an irony here because that is exactly what this entire debate is about.
So I worry about the ways that post-truth claims have been affecting public discussions around Bill C-16, around the Ontario Human Rights Code, and around freedom of expression.
She's framing this as though she's the one concerned about freedom of expression.
I'm here today as a lawyer, as a law professor, as a civil libertarian, as an expert in equality rights and freedom of expression to try to correct those misunderstandings. Is this the first time that a law has decided what we must say as opposed to what we cannot say? No.
This legal professor admits that this is forced expression. She uses those exact words.
Not only is forced expression not new, there's an entire chapter dedicated to it in Peter Hogg's Constitutional Law of Canada. It's not uncommon for the law to require expression, the oath of allegiance to the Queen that must be sworn at citizenship ceremonies. Are these requirements around pronouns constitutional?
So she is admitting, by law, you're not allowed to misgender.
Does the requirement to not misgender the pronouns violate freedom of expression under Section 2B of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms? Probably it does. I have a little thing then about why all this matters. And I'm out of time, but why it all matters is because people matter.
Professor Bryson, I noticed that you were on the Vice Presidential Task Force at UBC for two-spirited trans. Do you have any thoughts or guidance about what universities can do to ensure that we're moving things forward in a helpful, inclusive way?
Let's talk about apologies. The Trans, Two-Spirit, and Gender Diversity Task Force is looking at everything in the context of what Greta Bauer and her amazing colleagues at TransPulse call institutional and informational erasure.
The Trans, Two-Gender, Spirited Task Force. Just let that sink in.
A lot of what we've been hearing here is hate propaganda.
Such a common tactic just to dismiss all of those points as propaganda.
So you will notice is that I have in fact been denounced today. And what I am saying has in fact been described as hate propaganda. So one thing I'd like to suggest to you, every single person in the audience, you're next.
Now this other professor really does not like that, so she tries to counter it.
He just said that he was denounced here today and that they're going to come for you next. So the thing is about speech is that everybody gets it. And you say something and you then get criticized.
Okay, can you be more specific? Where am I wrong? I have made specific points.
You present your issue with Bill C-16 to be that the infringement of freedom of expression regarding gender pronouns is a problem. Do you hold the same stance with other discriminatory language in the Human Rights Code, such as being able to use racist terms with regard to students?
Because there's a difference between what you cannot say and what you must say. That's the point around compelled speech.
If you could go back to the point about the analogy between the racial slur and the
I don't think there's any
use.
analogy at all.
But
I
that's
think the
what
difference
people wanna hear
between,
you
I'm
on.
talking about compelled speech. There's a difference between saying that there's something you can't say and saying that there are things that you have to say.
Based upon what this person tells you to say, which is determined by their subjective feelings.
Can one not also argue, based on your interpretation, that professors can use racial slurs in their classroom and that the inability to do so would violate their freedom of speech?
Well, that's pretty much the same question, I think.
And this leads to one of the most famous clips, and it still lives on to this day, and this is it.
And I regard these made-up pronouns, all of them, as the neologisms of radical PC authoritarians. Do you understand that? And I'm not a fan of that sort of person. And the reason I'm not a fan of that sort of person is because I've done my homework. I've read everything I can get my hands on in the development of authoritarian political systems, and I know the literature inside out and backwards. And I am not going to be a mouthpiece for language that I detest. And that's that!